Hey folks, welcome to today's video. Today we're discussing Path of Exile and the state of the game. Sanctum has come to an end and there has been a lot of talk about crafting, drops, all this kind of stuff. But one topic has sort of blown up recently. It's about TFT, which is a Discord that allows basically Path of Exile players to group together to discuss the game, to sell items, to help each other with challenges, to trade in bulk. I can show you what that looks like in a moment if you're unsure what I'm talking about. I've played PoE since it came to Steam. It's recently become my favourite game and the game that I mainly play. As always, just feel free to carry on grinding your maps, boys, and I'll just be chatting in the background. So TFT is a Discord which we can show you here, and if we swap screens very quickly, and we just change our desktop capture there to our primary monitor, you can see that basically it's called the Forbidden Trove. You can go in here, you can get build help, crafting help. There are some useful things such as build showcases if you want to find a build. There are people sharing MTX setups if you want to see a cool MTX setup. And as well as all of that stuff, there is also trading. So, for example, people wanting to sell their gear in standard here, selling specific Legion jewels, hosting 5-way events, trading bulk divination cards and essences, or you can sell boss carries, and anything that you can sell goes up here pretty much. I believe I think somebody said there was like 350,000 members, something crazy like that in the chat. Whether that figure's accurate, I don't know, but basically there's a lot of people in this Discord. Yeah, the reason it's become such a hot topic is because these places have a shop, and they have a mirror shop, and you will see that these items that have been posted are a GG basically mirror tier item. It is owned by somebody, and the Forbidden Trove go ahead and do the mirror services for the person. I believe the person gets a cut of the mirror fee and they get a cut or something along those lines. And what this effectively means is, although the guy owns the mirror item, because he's giving it to somebody in TFT, for all intents and purposes, he's probably never going to see that item back ever again, and he doesn't really own the item. And what TFT will do is they will take a cut, and all of those cuts together add up to a huge amount of money. After a certain period of time, they will go and buy the original bases. So I'm told. So a lot of these items will end up in the hands of TFT. And the reason for that is because they have this huge Discord that have all these players. They obviously get a lot of fees. And also, if you want to get your sort of item advertised and mirrored, I'll swap screens now, I've seen enough. If you want to get your item mirrored, then obviously you want the most amount of people to see it. So it makes sense to advertise it on TFT, right? TFT in that regard are doing absolutely nothing wrong. Quite simply, what they've done is they've created a really useful tool. The player base have decided to use it. It's become very, how do we word it? Popular. And for all intents and purposes, it's kind of low-key breaking the high end of the game, because they're buying all the bases and they're buying all of the crafting gear with their funds to buy such like re-roll beasts and all of this stuff, right? Which makes it very hard for a player like me to go ahead and purchase it to play the game. But also, the price is now based around them because they pretty much control the market. Now, before everybody goes, this sounds terrible, I want people to have another look at the side of things, because everyone is on TFT's back, and what they are doing, technically, there is nothing wrong, right? they have created this forum that everyone wants to use, and they're getting rich off it and then using the money to purchase bases and dominate the economy. This is no different to what's happened in the past. This is just on a much larger scale, and it kind of messes with things, because if you do want to make a mirror tier item, you pretty much have to go to TFT, and this forum or Discord, whatever you want to call it, is not controlled by GGG. They can ban you, they can do whatever they want, you know, and it gets a little bit how do we word it? A little bit difficult to construe. Are they actually doing something right or wrong, and should GGG step in? Now, the last piece of controversy has, I can't confirm it or deny it, but all I will say is there has been large evidence that TFT have been involved in real money transactions. What this means is, whether it's true or not, we don't know, but there seems to be evidence that they're involved in real money transactions. The problem for this is if you say any of these things, you can be banned by TFT. Again, so I'm told, people have spoke out and been banned, which is worrying, because, like, say for somebody like me that would like to use the TFT services to sell sextants in bulk, or would like to get some help with challenges and not really interact with the shop aspect, you can end up getting blocked off from all of that stuff. Importantly to note, they have a tool that if you have been banned from TFT and you try to trade with this person in game, it can pop up with a message and say, hey, warning, this guy's a known scammer. So it can actually mess with you in game as well. I think that's why the crossover is getting a little bit too much for me, because we don't know who's moderating this Discord. We don't know what their agenda is, and I don't like the fact that it is interacting with the game. That would be my thing. I think it should be separate. So what's the drama then? Why is this worth a video? Well, the reason it's worth a video is because the way they're apparently accumulating a lot of this wealth is through mirror fees and all of the other things that they do in the server. But apparently, according to evidence on Reddit anyway, users have been involved in RMT. And RMT basically means you've gone ahead and you've purchased money from a website to then go ahead and buy, say, crafting tools and bases and all of this stuff, right? So if you have a large Discord and you're running it like the way they are, and then you have all the money in the world, you can buy all of the bases, and you can completely control sort of how you do high-end crafting just through proxy, which is fair enough, actually. I'm completely fine with somebody completely dominating the online economy. That's kind of like the fun of the game, right? To get ahead and try get a lot of currency to do cool stuff. However, realistically, nobody's ever going to compete with an entire Discord doing it. On top, if they are RMTing and purchasing real money transactions to get in-game currency, then you've got absolutely no chance. What this means basically is like the top, let's say 5 to 1% of players that think, you know what, I want to make a really amazing item. They don't really ever have a chance. And again, via proxy or knock-on effect, whatever you want to call it, that means that the players might burn out quicker because they think, well, my only option is to go and buy a mirror tier item off this Discord or just give up, basically. Now, the flip side of this is the real problem isn't so much TFT and the Discord and all of this stuff. The actual problem is the fact that why do we need to use TFT? So why does TFT have popularity? Because if you're looking at it logically, most people playing Path of Exile will never ever mirror an item. You need a mirror plus a fee, and it needs to go on a build that's already good enough that's worth putting in a mirror tier item, right? This isn't a Mage Blood where you just purchase a Mage Blood off trade and your build becomes better. If you're going to buy a 1 damage per 15 strength triple implicit strength stacking amulet, if the rest of your gear sucks, it doesn't really do anything. You'd be much better putting that mirror plus 50 divines into your other pieces of gear. So basically, to mirror an item, you're probably going to need easily 2 mirrors worth of gear overall. You know, making up numbers, but you get the point. You don't just slap on a mirror tier item and it'd be worth. So most people are never ever going to mirror an item. So if TFT was just about, hey, this is a shop where we advertise mirror tier items and we take a small fee because we're always online, there would be no problem. I don't think so. The reason we're using TFT, I would imagine, is for 2 things, right? The main thing is, I would imagine, a lot of people do nip in there to do challenges. There are some challenges that are super obnoxious and awkward, and you think to yourself, like, I really can't be bothered juggling 28 shaper balls on my specific build that just isn't great for that. So I'll pay somebody 80C and we can communicate it. I know he's not going to scam me because there's a trust level, which, by the way, I think is really good. One of the great things about TFT is there is that built-in trust level. The more services you do and the more things you do, you get higher ranked up, and that means that you're more likely to be trusted, which in turn helps you get services. And also, like, I'm much more likely to pay before somebody does the challenge, for example, if he's like a highly rated trader. Or I can maybe think, actually, I don't want to give over this 50 divine item to this guy that's got no rep. So I do like it in that instance. It's not all bad. TFT is a great thing for the game that shouldn't be in the game. That's the problem. So there can be a Discord to help with challenges, right? That's cool and everything. But mostly, apart from challenges, what people are doing is they're buying and selling in bulk. That's why I imagine most people would use TFT. If I go and I print out my entire stash tab of scarabs, if I'm to sell them on trade and get them all out and price them, I might make more money than selling it in bulk on TFT, but it might take an entire day. It might take 2 hours of painful trading, whatever. However, there is a tool, which is a fantastic tool. Again, not everything TFT does, by the way, is bad. Like, I'm not trying to paint them as this horrible system. I'm just explaining to you guys what it does. You can log in, it screenshots and works out what is inside of your tabs, prices everything, and then you can do something such as, say, 90% of PoE trade price, and then you can go on the website, on the Discord, and say, I want to sell all of my scarabs. Instead of them being worth 8.9 divines, I'm going to ask it to price them at 85% of trade, and somebody can buy my entire tab for 7 divines. Somebody will ping you. You will get 7 divines traded to you, and then because they trust you, because you've got a trusted system, and then you will go ahead and trade them over like multiple tabs of scarabs. And it's done in a second, and I can get back to mapping. And if that guy wants to sit and flip and make 2 divines profit, he can do that. The problem is, does that really need to exist? And this is where I think there's 2 lines of thinking, and at the moment, people are only thinking of one line of thinking. So everyone's saying there's no reason that this should exist. We shouldn't be able to sell in bulk. We should be able to sell in bulk. And I agree, there should be some way on the trade website to tell somebody, hey, I'm selling 70 of these defiled cathedral maps and not just 1, right? You can see bulk in scarabs and all of this stuff, right? But not for other specific items such as, say, sextants, compasses, beasts, blood-filled ritual vessels. And if GGG implemented that, put in that sort of work to say, hey, I have 50 blood ritual vessels and I can put them on trade, a lot of people wouldn't feel the need to use TFT. On the flip side, a lot of people get massively caught up in these video games with not understanding that they don't have to be efficient. So here's the thing. Most people don't need to sell everything in bulk. They don't need to have insane crafting methods. You can craft some incredible gear without interacting with all of these price fixed, mirror tiered stuff. Take an example, right? If you don't believe me, look at Mathel's gear. Every league, Mathel manages to make some gear for his own build that works, and he clears all the content in the game. He never once sits in TFT and has to interact with bulk selling, bulk trading. The solo self-found players never have to do that either, right? There's a lot of people that play the game semi-solo self-found, which means, okay, they're not totally solo self-found because they are in trade league, but they try to limit how much they trade, just to make it slightly more challenging and extend the longevity of the game for themselves, right? So when people say, oh, it's really frustrating because now I've got to use TFT, you don't have to use TFT. TFT is a thing if you want to be super bloody efficient. That's what it's for. And if you want to be super efficient, yes, you're going to have to use TFT. And then your argument will be, well, why would I not want to be super efficient? A lot of people aren't that bothered by it. A lot of people have got their head twisted into thinking like there's only one way to do things and that's the way I've got to do it. I'll see these crazy comments on Reddit like, yeah, it sucks. I can't craft now because of TFT. Like what? Like, you can craft. TFT hasn't messed up crafting that much that it's impossible to craft, right? My Chaos Orbs still work. My Essences still work. My Harvest still works. You know, all this stuff, right? If I want some beasts, right? Maybe I change my Atlas to be beasts. Maybe the entire community, you know how everyone was like, oh, Harbinger's really good, we should all do Harbinger. If everybody in the server changed their Atlas to be beast farming, I'm pretty sure we'd have some more beasts for sale. Instead, they're just saying, hey, listen, I can't craft anymore, TFT's ruined the game. Which is ridiculous. Do I think TFT should exist? I don't see a reason why not, to be completely honest. I know everybody will say TFT should never exist, but why not? If I want to sell something in bulk and be super efficient, then, yeah, maybe PoE comes up with a way to sell an entire trade tab. But they're probably not gonna, because how would that work on search, right? It just doesn't quite work the same. You can sell your scarabs in bulk right now. Maybe there are some maps and stuff that they bring in to sell in bulk. But if you want to be super efficient, then yes, you are going to have to interact with third-party tools. That doesn't mean that they're required, right? That's the thing. Okay, if I want to sell 10,000 stack decks, I should be able to put them on trade website and not have to do TFT. Absolutely. But if I want to sell every single scarab at 80% of markup, yeah, that's probably going to have to do a third-party tool. That doesn't mean you have to use the third-party tool. You're choosing to be super, super efficient, right? This is like when people moan that you have to use third-party tools to play the game. Yeah, some things you really do, but other things you really don't. If you want to be a super efficient, hyper efficient gamer, then yeah, you are going to min-max the fuck out of everything and come up with these tools. Like, for example, you could argue Path of Building is a requirement to learn to play Path of Exile. But let's be honest, it's not. You can make a build in PoE and kill Shaper and kill the bosses without ever using Path of Building. But if you were to ask somebody, is Path of Building like required? People would be like, yeah, it's really good. It's unfortunate we have to use third-party tools. So I'm not sat here saying that TFT is the devil or TFT is amazing. But once again, I think people just really, they lose touch with what the game is. The game for most people, right, is they come home from work and they play 2-3 hours if they've got a bit of spare time. And in 2 to 3 hours, for a couple of weeks, they get maybe a couple of characters up and running, they get them killing some bosses, they try a bit of crafting, and then they move on. That's all it is. Yes, if you want to create mirror tier items and dominate the economy and be super efficient and have the best Atlas tree and the best passive tree and the best, this point is slightly better than this point, and is this anoint better than this one, you might have to check POB, you might have to check a third party tool, you might have to interact with the Discord, but you're optionally choosing to do that. The notion that these things are like unavoidable, like the only way you can play the game is in TFT, or the only way you can play the game is with third party tools, is not true. And everybody gets so over the top with all of this. And like I say, I'll just refer to that. Think of Mathel. Mathel plays a fuck ton, right? But he's never sat in TFT Discord flipping. He's never bulk selling his stuff, is he? He just plays the game and gets on with it. Now, the the kind of side what sucks, but people just basically need to come to realize, is when you have less time, your goals have to change. So what Reddit and what a lot of people want is, I'm really frustrated because I can only play 1 hour a day and I just can't make insane gear and I can't get through all the content in the game and the game's trash for that. Okay, fair point. But unfortunately, to make a game as good as Path of Exile, and for the game to have as much depth as it does, and for it to feel as good as it will do when you break into that upper echelon of like DPS and mapping and gearing and content, there does have to be a struggle point. And yes, they could smooth out the curve of how you get to that top point, but let's take me for example, right? Past couple of weeks I've been in work, right, more than normal. I haven't had nearly as much time to play, and as a result, my goals shifted, right? The thing is, it's like people want all of the content and everything and all of the crafting to be handed to them, but not understand that the reason why it feels so good to get there in the first place is because it is a bit of a struggle. And simply saying I don't have enough time to play to get to X thing, therefore the game is trash, doesn't really make much sense. It's just one of those unfortunate things. It would be like me saying I'm going to try now play World of Warcraft having never played it. It would probably take me a long time, I imagine, to get through all the content in the game, right? And I could say, oh, it sucks that it's taking weeks and weeks and weeks to catch up to all the people that have already done these things in the past. But the reason why it's probably as good as it is because there's years and years of content and depth that keeps those current players happy. So yeah, you do have to play a shit ton to play this game to the top level. And it does suck because sometimes when you don't have as much time to play, you think to yourself, all I can really do is make an average build and kill a few bosses. I can't really get right into the nitty gritty of the game because simply I don't have enough time for that. But the reason that feels bad to you, and the reason you wish you could get to that end game point, and the reason you're annoyed that you can't play more, is because that end game feels so good, right? And that's why people get frustrated. They're like, yeah, I wish I could get further and further, but I don't have enough time. But if it didn't take a lot of time to get there and a lot of effort, it wouldn't feel as good to get there anyway. So that's just like something to think about. I think there's a place for TFT, a place to discuss and do things such as sell an alternate art in standard, right? There maybe does need to be a third party tool for that, to discuss things, to have a chat back and forth on Discord and say, okay, I do want to buy your stash tab full of unique rings or something, but I don't want to pay your price. Let's have a chat back and forth, right? However, on the flip side, GGG should help eliminate the need somewhat by doing some basic things. I should be able to list all my stack decks. I should be able to list my blood-filled ritual vessels. I should be able to list maps for sale in bulk. Maybe improve the boards so I can host 5-ways on the notice board or stuff like that. That's maybe more obvious, or do little things to improve it. But I don't think TFT is the complete devil. But I don't like the fact that the main issue here is apparently they're doing some RMT, I don't know who it is, but some members or something, and then they're using that money to dominate the economy. And the reason they're able to do that, obviously, is because everybody has to go into their Discord to do basic stuff. Maybe GGG could help eliminate that. But as always, I don't think it's as big as a problem as Reddit and people want to make out. I've seen people like James Belton. He had his stream. He was like, he had like a 24-hour stream, and I think it's still going. It was something like, I'm not turning my stream off until this is resolved. And it's kind of like, listen, the world keeps turning. It is a problem, but people get so wrapped up in this drama and this stuff that they kind of begin to act like they can no longer play Path of Exile. Like I can't launch up Path of Exile now and make a build and play maps and craft with the stuff that drops and work on a passive tree because TFT have got a lot of fucking bestiary beasts. And it's just like, just have a step back and just think about what you're saying, because it's bloody ridiculous at times. So yes, people that RMT should be banned. But it's difficult to track. The only thing that I can say that's maybe poor about GGG, if this is to be true, is apparently because this guy does all of the mirror services on TFT, allegedly what happens is somebody will like RMT, and then say they have a base and it's worth 1 mirror and like 100 divines to mirror it. If you did that trade with that account and you handed him 3 mirrors, it's not really going to be picked up on the system because that account will be handling hundreds of thousands of mirrors a league. So it's kind of like, without sounding ridiculous, it's kind of like cleaning your money virtually. And if that is the case, that should be looked into. The reality is, in an ARPG, people don't like grinding, which is so weird. People like an ARPG, but they want to skip all of the progression that makes an ARPG good. And people will spend money on RMT and buy some shit. It's going to happen, unfortunately. I don't know how the hell GGG stopped that. It's just going to happen. Like, for some ridiculous reason, if I thought, you know what, I've had enough of PoE, I'm going to sell all my standard shit. I'm sure, absolutely sure, somebody would come at me with an offer, and then you sell it, and then what do? Just make a new account and play again. Oh, I got banned. All right, well, I'll make a new account. I'm sure if you want to do it, you can do it, and that's a problem. But maybe when some account is so heavily involved in it, they could look into it. But honestly, it's one of them. It's blown out of proportion, and it's kind of like, maybe they are doing that. Maybe they are fucking with the whole game. I'm not sure. But people just love to jump to this like extreme of, I can't play Path of Exile now. It doesn't work. It reminded me of there's lots of there's lots of examples of little things where people then claim the game's unplayable. And it's kind of like, all right, some things might be a bit annoying. Some things might be a bit irking you. But they always jump, it seems to be, for the jugular of, that's it, the game's ruined, it's unplayable. Like, just have a step back, have a breather. Think about these things. So yeah, that's all I've got to say on it. Hopefully, if people are RMTing, it gets sorted. hopefully there's a little bit of a better way to bulk sell. But I think if you want to be super efficient and discuss prices and undercuts and percentages of PoE trade and sell all arts and do challenges and discuss with the guy, oh, you do this challenge, hey, do you also do this challenge? Could you do both of the challenges for 3 divines instead of like 3.5 for both, because I've only got you know what I mean? If you want to have a discussion with somebody, yeah, you're probably gonna have to go to a Discord or something. It's not all doom and gloom, it's not all evil. That's all I've got to say. Sanctum League's been fantastic. I'll see you in the next one. If you enjoyed this content, consider giving it a like, a comment, a subscribe. If you want to go a step further, become a member on YouTube. That is the best way to support me. And the next best way to support me is a Twitch subscription with a Twitch Prime. I have no subscriptions on Twitch, so we're trying to get that channel back up and running. So if anybody wants to be one of the first subscribers, there you go. You will be appreciated a lot. All right, take it easy. Have a good one.